Okay, we're at the start of the 9 a.m. turn, and what a turn it's been. A lot of activity out here on the French left flank. The the Russians and the Prussians are throwing a lot at these French defences with mixed success. The Russians, however, have faced a lot of setbacks. They have suffered horrendously through fire combat and their assaults. They've gone very poorly in their assault, and you can see behind the lines a lot of routed Russian battalions. They hit the lines mainly out here on the far left. A combination of French artillery and musket fire, good lines of fire. You can see this artillery here, you can fire down here, the first Redoubt, this battery across the river here. There's another one over to the left here, and they're all just hitting the Russians from all angles, causing horrific casualties. A lot of these we had one Russian battalion eliminated. A lot are down to one or two. You can see there one, two. Some of those that routed only have one or two left. The artillery, the cavalry, the Bug Cossacks, and these Russian dragoons are trying to kind of give some support and help out. You can see the French in square down here, but the infantry just can't follow through and do much. So the avant-garde is, at this stage, 9 a.m. It's now on the end of 9 a.m, turns to 9:20, effectively spent as a fighting force. They don't have the strength to do much else. In the meantime, on the other side of things, look at the French. They've suffered very few casualties. They're full strength. These guys suffered 2 step losses and otherwise full strength. So I think that's on the night before those 2 casualties. So whilst the Russians the avant-garde has been almost entirely eliminated, the French have come through this initial probing assault unscathed. Slightly to the right, where the Prussians have been attacking, it's been a slightly different story. The Prussian advantage is their weight of numbers. They're sending in a lot of assaults, unlimbering their artillery now, close cavalry support, so effective combined arms in this area. Unfortunately, low Prussian morale. Some of these guys have morale of around, I think I saw 42 on some of these battalions. Means that they very easily fail their role to stand. You can see a lot of disordered Prussians throughout the lines. Some of them managed to recover at the end of the turn, but it's their main disadvantage. One thing you may have noticed right in the centre here, this is Redoubt number 1. And there was an intense artillery fire exchange. In the same artillery fire chit, the French fired at the Prussians, rolled a 66 and blew up that Prussian artillery counter. Of course, they get a chance to counter in the same artillery fire chit, so they, before they were eliminated, fired back, and also rolled a 66 on that first Redoubt. So there were 2 simultaneous artillery explosions in the same artillery fire chit, which eliminated both of those counters. Now these were a Redoubt, but I think for all intents and purposes they're treated as artillery, so they are eliminated, and they pass their morale check, those gunners, so they, I think, remain in the Redoubt. But you can see the Prussians are pushing, creating a gap. They've sort of pushed back the left side of the French flank. On the right flank, those French are in square. Elsewhere, they've forced back some skirmishes around here, and they're beginning to shift around towards Redoubt number 3 on the right. So there were, in fact, a lot of Prussian assaults along here, but their low morale has made it very difficult to achieve any success. In fact, I don't think they achieved any success in any of their assaults. A few sort of standoffs here, but elsewhere they'll force back. The French haven't been rolling too well themselves. You can see a couple of disordered French units. This is where they've failed their rolls to stand. Yeah, that's it. Off in the far left, we have some, I think, Russian reinforcements arriving, and the Austrians very slowly making their way forward. You can see these guys have stopped just outside the range of the French guns, waiting for those other units to move up, and then they'll advance together towards redoubts 3 and 4 in the centre here. Okay, so that is the end of the 9 o'clock turn. We're just on 9:20 a.m. Okay, it's the end of the 9:20 a.m. turn, and as you can see out on the left here, the Russian avant-garde has just pulled back. They are massively reduced. One increment left, 2, 1. A lot of routed units behind the front. They just are completely spent as a fighting force. This is a culmination of fighting from the day before and fighting throughout this morning. The French defensive fire primarily has been immense, and just the Russians haven't been able to stand against that. Further to the right around here, the Prussians are continuing with a series of assaults. Again, not much success for the Prussians this turn. They continue to send in to rely on their weight of numbers, but again, a combination of low morale compared with good French morale and good defensive positions means that the Prussians haven't really gained much ground. You can see they've captured this redoubt here. There were those French... That French artillery was destroyed, and I think that also removes their gunners. I think they're removed together. So the Prussians have moved in to capture that second redoubt, which is pretty important. They're just failing to press anywhere else around this area. A few disordered French units in defence here and up the top here, but that's about it. And so that's it. That's the end of the 9:20 a.m. turn. Further behind the lines, you can see some of those Austrians continuing to approach very slowly though. They've got very low movement rates, and it's taking them a long time to get up and into position. Okay, so we're just on 9:40 a.m. Okay, it's the end of the 9:40 a.m. turn again. A lot of action around this area. Out on the left here, the Russian avant-garde has pulled back behind the hills. I think they're pretty much out of artillery line of sight and range, and will play no more part in the fighting, at least for today. Further to the right, Prussians pushing pretty well and managing to disorder quite a few French. They have pushed beyond the second redoubt here. There's an isolated French square here. And they are doing okay. Suffering a few losses along the way. What's happened is the 43rd Division of the French, with the avant-garde pulling back, are very slowly beginning to move through the town to, I guess, reinforce 44th. In this region, this is the 43rd over here. This is the 44th over here. So they're moving around to provide some support. More Russians coming in from the left. Way off in the distance, the Austrians continue to very slowly plod along. It's now on 10 a.m. and there are a lot of forces being released at 10 a.m. So we might see these Austrians push against this part of the French line. Maybe they might start. In fact, they'll probably spend the next hour just setting up for that assault at around 11. So for the next hour, we'll probably just see more Prussian attempts to push back the French through here. All right, that's it. We're just at the end of 9:40 a.m. turn, so just on 10 a.m.